Welcome, everybody, and we're back to another Dirt Dawg Sports live show. This is Arnold Santiago, like always, your amigo, and the show that we have for you today. It's amazing. I mean, it's one of the ones that I've been looking forward to. I mean, all the other ones that we've been doing, we've been bringing a lot of Major League ball players talking about their career, and they're giving you some tips and all that stuff. But this one for me, really, really, I mean, it's one that I was dying to bring to you guys so you could enjoy. So kids, boys, mom, dad, coaches, everybody at Dirt Dog, get ready because this is one that you need to hear and this is one that you need to keep too. So let's just go ahead and bring in our man, Dirt Dog Sport owner, Don Connors.
Hey, what's going on, Arnold?
Hey, how you doing,
Do,
amigo?
doing well, doing well. I'm excited for this to sit down and talk to Rachel. Um, Kind of quite the impressive background bio. Kind of, she checks every boxes for our program, so it's great. Trying to get the girls, trying to get boys and girls kind of focused on going to school, chasing what you believe in, chasing what you dream about, and putting in the hard work, and it pays off. And yeah, I'm excited. It should be great.
And of course, she means a big breakthrough, of course, in sport, not just baseball and softball and all that. Just generally in sports. So her story will be one that I know for sure. A lot of people are going to be able to grab to it and even probably tell themselves, hey, I could do it. She did it. I
Yep.
could do it too.
Yep, yeah, no doubt, everything's possible. And even just to kind of pick our brain a little on trying to get the kids focused on the conditioning side. We made some great progress this past year on both the boys and the girls, and actually your nephew is a great example. Kind of bought into it, and it's turned them around. So
And we need that. We need that. I mean, the
yep,
sport, the sport that we're playing now, the new sport, pretty much, because every sport is doing the same thing. It's more physical, so you really need to have your body ready to go. So, hey, let's just let's just watch a little video introduction of our special guest for today.
I was getting opportunities from colleges for all women's sports, by the way. The career path that women's sports offers is not always the same as the men's sports. And I wanted to work in baseball.
Get ready for me.
Sporting New York Yankee pinstripes, Rachel Balkovec is making history this season as the first woman hired by a major league team to work as a full-time minor league hitting coach.
Your body's going to go where your head goes, right?
We used to work together with the Houston Astros, and I was an affiliate hitting coach, and she was a strength coach. We're very lucky to have her. She's as qualified or overqualified as anyone when it comes to their position.
Gracias.
The journey wasn't easy for the former Division I softball catcher. Despite an impeccable resume which included 2 degrees in sports performance and 5 baseball internships, Rachel was being overlooked by major league teams.
Finally get a phone call, and he said, hey, I want to hire you, but our organization says that we're just not going to hire a female in that role.
You're being told no because you're a woman, and you want to make yourself undeniable. You also change your name.
Yeah. I changed my name to Ray. In my resume, I changed NCAA Division I softball player to NCAA Division I catcher. I just made it all gender neutral, and I set it off. And what do you know? I got responses immediately. So I got some email responses within like a day, like really quickly. And then a day or two later, I got a phone call, and I picked up the phone, and the person on the other end of the line said, oh, I'm looking for Ray. And I just was so shocked. I was like, this is she? And didn't get a response after that.
Finally, her break came in 2014 when she was hired as the minor league strength and conditioning coordinator for the St. Louis Cardinals, the first woman to hold that position in professional baseball. And a year later, she became the Latin American strength and conditioning coordinator for the Houston Astros.
There would be things that I would see in the cage, and we were just having trouble fixing it. So we would go to Rachel and Say, what are you seeing in the weight room? She was a hitting coach then. It was just under a different title.
I had this previous curiosity surrounding like eye tracking and vision from what I learned from the Astros and Dylan. And then there's the leading researcher in the world in Amsterdam at this school where I could also go and possibly transition and be a hitting coach there with the national teams. It was almost a no-brainer.
In 2018, Rachel accepted a position as the skills acquisition coach for the Dutch national team in both softball and baseball.
She has 2 masters. Both are basically in human movement, but she's also put herself in an opportunity to study under one of the leading researchers in the entire world when it comes to eye tracking and gaze behavior and how that plays into decision making in the batter's box. The lens and the perspective that she has, it's unmatched by anyone else.
So instead of doing this, you're staying right with it. The players, when they first see me, it's like, she's so different. But I almost am like, wait a second. I was a catcher for 13 years. I have traveled all around, lived out of suitcases, worked for nothing. I train like an athlete. We're not that different if you peel back the layers.
She has true expertise when it comes to how the body moves, how it should move, how can we do this better, how we make decisions, how we process information, and they see that Rachel is able to do that, and that's why they connect with her.
Your approach, the mentalidad. I've heard several women say, like, I didn't even think about working in professional baseball until I saw you doing it. I hope that that visible idea sparks more women just thinking about opportunities.
So here she is. Welcome to our special guest for today's show, Rachel Balkovec. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's amazing after we saw that video, and thank to ESPN for that, segment they did with you and Jessica Mendoza, a very good friend, very nice to see her there with you, because I'm pretty sure she's been fighting. She's one of those that's been fighting a lot for a long time, and it's nice to see you guys together doing that. And congratulations, that assignment. I mean, it's a breakthrough in sports in general, but I mean in baseball, Major League Baseball, especially in the coaching side of it. I played minor league for almost 12 years, and the only woman I got to see, I think, was twice. We got to see, and there were trainers. There was not really coaching and none of that. So seeing you like that, it really hits pretty good for me. I mean, it makes me feel very proud of where baseball is going right now, where it's at right now. The first thing that I'm pretty sure everybody wants to know, what have you been doing with the players from the Yankees during this pandemic time that you can't be in the field with them?
Yeah, and it's tough because with hitters, obviously, they would need to face live pitching to get real good practice. And a lot of the guys kind of started out the pandemic hitting sunflower seeds. So if you want to know just like a good message for the kids, like, they just really made do. It was actually really inspiring, especially a lot of the Latin players that couldn't go home. So they couldn't go back to their countries. They were kind of stuck here. They would send me videos hitting like beans and sunflower seeds, basically. So they were kind of making do, but more or less just communicating with them through texting and sending video and just being engaged that way. And also just checking in to make sure that they're doing okay with their families and staying okay mentally, I guess. But it's a lot of video, a lot of WhatsApp messaging, a lot of, a lot of Instagram, actually, because that's where the kids these days live, and so we kind of go to them there and try to interact with them there sometimes. So yeah, I think that we're all just like the rest of the world, kind of trying to stay in touch virtually.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear about the sunflower seeds. We're going to have our kids hitting them, because now with the new rules, they can't be chewing sunflower seeds in the dugouts.
Yeah.
So we can put that one right to work. I just want to jump into and once again, congratulations. We're honored to have you here to give some advice to our program, to our players, to our parents, to our coaches. So this is kind of what we've been looking to see, getting ideas from people. How do we keep our kids going? How do we keep them training? So, video is the way to go. We kind of did a video challenge, so we've been trying to get that working on our side.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we're all kind of seeing how important the team dynamic is, because when you're at home alone, it's so much easier to kind of sit down on your couch. Whereas when you know someone's counting on you, it's a lot harder to give up or to not work. And so I think like creating a network of an accountability system of like everyone puts in their video into the same place so everyone can kind of see who hasn't put in their video yet, you know, so you kind of basically try to keep that team accountability alive even though you're separate. I just think we're all seeing how important that team dynamic is, and really relying on each other and feeling accountable for somebody else's success is so important.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing from both sides. We're seeing a lot of wives that are telling me, "Wow, now I know what my husband really do every day." I mean, it's. I mean, he needs to get ready in a different way. You know how baseball players, we have a lot of major league players saying, "I know we always get to the field at 1 o'clock. We ought to do all this," but now my wife is actually seeing me what I have to do to just get in shape and get ready before a game. And the same thing with the kids and the girls. Parents are seeing the job they have to try to to do to get better. Can you tell us a little about your transition? How was it from strength and conditioning to the hitting the coach that you are now? Because it had to be very, I don't know, it looks like a big change.
You know what's funny? Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think to like the outside world, it looks like a big change, but in my mind, it's actually like kind of normal, or it was a smooth transition, because when I was with the Astros, I was there for 3 years, and some of my like closest friends and mentors were the hitting coaches. And also I've swung a bat in my life like 10,000 times or more, and I've also thrown a ball a couple times being a Division I softball player. So it's not like these movements are completely foreign, and I wake up with a numb arm, you know, to prove it. So I've got the shoulder pain to prove it, and so it's definitely not like this is out of nowhere for me. After spending 3 years with the Astros as a strength and conditioning coach, and kind of like, I mean, realistically, I learned the entire hitting philosophy from them, and also knowing the human body and being able to apply that to the skill of hitting is really not that form of a concept, because the hitting coordinator for the Astros actually has his master's degree in kinesiology. So he basically hired hitting coaches with the Astros that also had that same background of like kinesiology and exercise science, understanding the human body, and then applying that to the swing. So all of the hitting coaches with the Astros had a really good understanding of like strength and conditioning or movement. And then from there, one of the hitting coaches with the Astros became the hitting coordinator for the Yankees. That's Dylan Lawson, who's my current boss. So I already had a relationship with him as a mentor and a friend, and somebody who I considered a colleague that was teaching me a lot with hitting. Then I decided to go back to school after I left the Astros. Meanwhile, Dylan goes to the Yankees from the Astros. So I'm in school, and I knew I was transitioning, so I worked with the Netherlands national baseball and softball team as a hitting coach there, which of course is not professional baseball, by the way. So I'm not trying to, but it was a good chance for me to basically kind of transition from looking at the human body in one area to the skill of it and a swing. So I was able to coach those junior national and national team players in the Netherlands in the cages. And then alongside that, I was doing my research in eye tracking for hitters, and was able to do that at Driveline Baseball, which I think everyone knows probably on this call. So I was able to go to Driveline Baseball and be working there and immersed in that environment and doing my research with eye tracking for hitters. So the transition for me personally, inside my head, was very, not slow, but very like consistent progression. I think the rest of the world was like, "Whoa, this is out of nowhere. Where did this come from?" So but that happens a lot. Like with many, it's like, oh, the overnight success, or she just popped in there, and all of a sudden is a hitting coach for the Yankees. Is probably about 10 years in the making for me.
Nice. Now, obviously, the eye tracking technology is something fairly new, would you say, in the baseball sporting world?
Yeah, fairly new in baseball. Not new overall, but yeah, not applied to baseball for sure.
Now, what are some of the new technologies that are out there that you guys are using on an everyday basis, and how do you work with certain players to avoid that analysis paralysis that can kind of creep in?
Well, you got to know the player, of course, but I would say that like players, I don't ever want to underestimate a player's ability to receive information, because even me, I'm 32, even me, players that are playing now, let's say they're 20 to 25 or even younger, those players have had technology in their faces, literally in their face, for longer than I did when I was a kid. So I don't ever
Yeah.
want to underestimate someone's ability to receive information, use technology, digest information. So I'm definitely a big proponent of like give them everything and let them choose what they want type of thing. As far as like the new technology, it's funny because I mean there's some new stuff out there, but I think right now we're in a phase where I think everyone knows about blast motion or like a bat sensor, hit tracks, being able to evaluate how hard they're hitting a ball, launch angle, etc. Like that's funny because it was new when I was with the Astros, and okay, I know there's controversy surrounding that, so let's
No, no,
We won't go there.
yeah, but when I was with the Astros, like they truly were, and someone on the inside, I have nothing but respect and love for a lot of people that are in that organization or were, especially because they were adopting this technology when it truly was new, like blast motion 4 or 5 years ago. Like that was. Now I think it's pretty well accepted. So those are some of the things that we're using. And I think that's it's almost become a standard. If you don't have that, it seems like you're behind. So just with like a bat sensor and between a bat sensor and hit tracks, those two things provide some pretty valuable information for guys to be able to like self-evaluate, especially in a practice where you can have exit velocity coming off. So basically, if you're hitting a ball 110 miles an hour, you're probably doing something right. And if you're hitting at 110 miles an hour to the top of the cage in the back, you're probably doing something right. That's probably going to be a double. So just them understanding those basic concepts, I think, are pretty foundational. But also, to going back to your question of like, how do you manage paralysis by analysis? I had the yips in college, so I like 100% understand that. Fully. So I think that you just have to know the athlete and understand that I don't want to say restrict information from them, but maybe be careful about shoving it down their throat and giving them feedback after every pitch. Maybe some guys don't need that. Maybe some people will do better with they can check the velo board when they want, or they can check the blast when they want, but it's not necessarily something that you go to with them every day. It just
So
depends.
I think that what Rachel is saying pretty much it makes it feel like as a coach, we're talking I'm here to the coach at Dirt Dawg Sports. We need to just learn the kid like we always do. Make sure you learn the kid, and then it makes it a lot easy how what information he might get better than another information. Try to go at his pace, and I think that's pretty good. But bottom line is, Don and Rachel, baseball it's going that way. Even NBA it's going another way, but everything go with technology. The idea of it just give you data. I mean, it's not gonna be like I'm gonna give you this. If you don't do it, you're not gonna be a good player. It's just that this is the data might help you to walk this line easier, a little easier than try to walk kind of like a little blindfolded. Because that's how like when I was hitting when I was growing up, they always tell me hit the ball on top of the plate, hit the ball on top of the plate, and then I realized no wonder I was hitting so many balls to right field because I'm late. But I didn't have this information. I got it now that I'm older, and I'm like, wow, now if I could use this blast motion thing, I mean, it will tell me where should I hit the ball, where do I get better. Forget about the velo and all that. Just how do I get better contact? So it's pretty nice to Rachel saying that, Don, because we want the kids and the girls at Dirt Dawg to get the idea. We got this stuff here. I think we need to use it because you're going to use it no matter what.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's a really really great point that this isn't going away. And honestly, like if you look at the transition of the game, really it's partly why I have an opportunity to be coaching right now, because we're in this like little middle point where the players that are exiting the game in the past 5 to 10 years, they don't really have the experience with the technology, and they just grew up playing with no numbers, so they don't understand the technology. They have the experience, they played professionally, but they don't understand the technology. And if they accept it, that's fine, but some of them don't even accept it. So organizations aren't looking to hire those people who have experience playing but no care to understand the numbers. Whereas now players that are coming up now are being immersed in the numbers and understand these things. So when they get done playing, organizations will be wanting to hire them because they'll have playing experience and understand the numbers. So in this in-between time where you're seeing a lot of unique coaches with unique backgrounds like myself and like other coaches that are coming from the collegiate setting, etc., with no professional playing experience that are getting hired. And that's why, is because technology has basically literally taken over everything in player development at this point. Yeah. So if you're not at least accepting of that, then you probably won't have a job. But even if you are accepting, if you don't understand it or are willing to use it, then you're probably out of it. And then as a player, like, you know, as you mentioned, and for the listeners, if you're not using the numbers, you're blindfolded in some ways. It's just extra information. And of course, the best information is if the ball's going over the wall. That's a piece of information, right? But what if it's not? You know, what if you don't hit a lot of home runs and you just like, what if you're just an extra base hitter that's just hitting a lot of doubles? Like, there's kind of that middle ground where you're like, am I doing the right things? Am I not? Why am I hitting every ball to right field? Why am I doing this? Why do I struggle with the high fastball? Like, there's so many questions that can be answered if you just take a dive into the numbers.
Yeah. Now, do you still see a small percentage of players that just don't buy into the technology, or they all starting to buy in?
The small percentage of guys that don't buy in are veterans who are about to exit the game. But there's not, honestly, the newer players. And also, by the way, I'm biased because I've been in organizations that are very progressive. So I don't know, maybe if you're not an organization that's progressive and the players aren't getting these numbers all the time, then they might be like, oh, I don't need that. But pretty much for the most part, a lot of guys are like, hey, what was my exit velo on that? Or what was my launch angle on that? Or what do my numbers look like? They want the information. And that's why I said at the beginning, you know, I think that players nowadays are like, look, they're tracking everything, right? They're tracking their sleep with their iPhone. They're tracking their minutes on their phone. It's like we live in a digital world outside of sports.
Yeah.
So they're a lot more just like in general accepting that you could be measuring something as a good thing. But then also you have companies out there like Driveline that are putting out information on social media. So when I was working at Driveline, players would come there and they're like, please let me use the rap soda. Like, they know that this information is out there, but their organization doesn't have it available, and they're going to find it. So they know that the information is there. It's possible to get this information that could help them, and they want it because they see other players using it. So I think that there's like, to your point, I think that there is a small percentage of players, but they're going to be gone pretty soon. Most players, I think, are at least aware that there's some benefit to using the numbers.
All right. We're in Massachusetts, of course. So we're definitely, Red Sox fans. You know that, you. So, but usually the Yankees are one of those organizations that have the reputation that their baseball ops is pretty good. I mean, you were with the Cardinals, you were with the Astros too, that they're, pretty good too. But I mean, is it true? Are they really that good in that department? Once you got there, do you realize something different than the other two, or just everybody's pretty much just changing everything?
You know what is different about the Yankees is that obviously there's so much tradition in the organization, and some would say that they're even more, like they're even better than the Red Sox. They're just throwing it out there. But I just, there's so much tradition and history, but yet they are so progressive. So it's like this contrast. It's incredible because there are some organizations that go, oh, well, this is how we've done it for forever, and this is how we're going to do it forevermore. But instead, the Yankees are respectful of the people that have, contributed to their organization, players and coaches alike. But they're also like, okay, and we need to keep moving forward because otherwise no one is immune to these things. No one is immune to change. No one's immune to this technology bubble. So they have really made some huge steps to be progressive. And by the way, I'm the most probably like obvious example of a progressive hire, but I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about my own boss. He came from a college background and never played anything but Division III baseball. And he's one of the most brilliant minds, in my opinion, in baseball. It's like, he's incredible. So you've got people of different backgrounds. They hired the pitching coordinator from Driveline. So again, what sticks out to me, I think what makes them unique to me is that they are so traditional, progressive, and just receptive to new things. It's just a really unique contrast.
Nice. And then, like you said, this day and age, if you don't buy into it, you're going to be passed by. So one of the things we're challenged with, obviously, dealing with we have 8-year-olds up to 18-year-olds that come into our program, is trying to make sure that they're learning, they leverage our technology, but the key is that they're having fun. So we're in that dichotomy of balancing that, where we don't want them to at a younger age to get too caught up. Because once again, from a conditioning standpoint, their bodies aren't ready to do a lot of things. Well, how would you recommend, trying to work in that technology around the younger crowd?
Okay, so like I said, I think one of the best ways to measure is if the ball's going over the fence. So you just in my opinion, it's like setting up practice in a way. So in a very simplistic way, if you're going to do batting practice, put screens on the field. I think this is a pretty you might have already seen this or might already be doing it. You put screens on the field, kind of on the inside of the infield, and say, okay, hit the ball over those screens. So it's really there is no way to then get on top of a ball and hit a grounder, if you're trying to have that goal. So we call that external cueing. So if you're not using a lot of technology, or I mean, if you're 10 and you didn't buy a blast sensor, I get it. I don't think of course, I think that's obviously reasonable. If you can't buy hit tracks because it's $60,000, of course, but you can set up practice in a way that kind of basically requires them to do the right things without the technology. So external cues is just a very simple example, like I said, of putting L screens on the infield and be like, all right, hit the ball over those L screens. What's going to make them get into a good position where they're going to elevate the ball without you needing to have any kind of feedback at all. So I think that there's a fine line. And really, again, to your point, you've got 8-year-olds and 18-year-olds. Well, some of those kids are trying to get a college scholarship, and some of those kids are trying to build self-esteem, learn how to be a part of a team. So when does that come into play? I don't know. I'm not against using technology for young kids, but I think it should be used sparingly and just literally competition, and getting them to go hard in practice and getting them to work together. And also, by the way, play other sports. Really enjoy playing sports probably at that level is the main thing. I'm not worried about their exit velocity. Who cares?
I mean, and now that you mentioned all that, we always talk about that at Dirt Dog too. So that's a good point that Rachel brings up. How important is stress and conditioning? I mean, especially when you in the 13 and up, that now you're playing in the bigger field and all that. How important it is, because we always tell the kids. I mean, you might feel like you are ready to go and you are stronger than anybody else, but once you go out there, college, it don't matter D1, D2, it don't matter where you go. If you sign professional, I mean, the guys are in another level once you get there. So how important it is for girls and boys to get ready, strength and conditioning before they hit the mark to go to probably finish their high school or go to college.
Yeah, and Rachel, a quick follow up with that too is trying to get them to get buy-in. We did get some good buy-in this past year with our conditioning program. We put a gym into the facility 4 years ago. We know it's definitely will move their game along, but trying to work with the youth and once they get into it, they get into it. But it's tough to get them there.
Yeah. Well, how I was a strength coach for a long time, so I have some opinions of this, of course. How do you get someone to buy in if they're not buying in? Well, there's always taking away playing time because that is the fastest way. That's the fastest way to get someone to buy in. And frankly, that's how it goes in college. I mean, if you didn't show up to weights in college, you're not playing.
Yep.
I don't know, that's not even a thing. You don't not show up to weights. You don't not do your strength and conditioning. That's not even a thing. It's, and we're talking about that was 10 years ago in softball, just to give the ladies on the call an idea too. That was 10 years ago in softball. So if you're not showing up to your weights, you are not a part of the team. That's just a part of what you do. So, and also in professional baseball, if guys don't show up to weights, they're not playing that night, or there's a fine or something. And so, but to be honest with you, I had so few problems with guys showing up by the time that I got into professional baseball when it was first, because you guys I don't know what your strength and conditioning background was or how much you did it when you were playing, but it's still relatively new to the baseball community and even especially professional baseball. So I would say getting in 2012 was probably the first 5 years where it was just everyone does strength and conditioning no matter what. And we did have fines in place, but I probably had to fine one guy the whole season because he accidentally slept in. So like you said about the technology, it is it's whether you like it or not. If you want to play collegiate baseball or professional baseball or collegiate softball or whatever, you will be lifting weights. So that's kind of what I say when parents and coaches ask, well, when should we start having them lift weights? And my answer is as soon as you can. But of course, it looks different for the 8 to 12-year-olds, where it's just like, hey guys, let's do some body weight squats and learn how to squat. And there's nothing wrong with lifting light weight when they're that age and just learning technique and just really just planting the seed that this is a part of your routine. So then when they get into junior high school, it's like it feels unnatural not to do some kind of physical training to pair with their baseball training. And then in high school, I think it's totally appropriate to start doing strength gaining. Of course, if there's an exception where you have an underdeveloped kid in that age, but still, I credit my whole career to when I was 10, my dad would go to the YMCA and lift weights. And I mean, I just wanted to hang out with my dad. So I would ask him to go, and he would let me come. And I don't even know what I did. I was probably just, I was just following him around doing whatever. I don't even know if I lifted weights. But the point is that when I was 10, my dad was letting me come to the gym with him. So I just developed this habit of going to the gym. And then by the time that I was 16 and had my own car, I went to the gym because that's what I did. So I think it's about building habits, planting the seed that it's a part of your routine, no matter what age you are. And then when you are ready, it's not like you've never walked in the gym before, which I don't know how prevalent that is with the guys, the baseball guys, but especially with young women. I know when I was in high school, I was probably the only girl on my team that was lifting weights, and then I went to play Division I college softball, and I was already so far ahead of the freshmen that were there because I was doing it on my own. So especially as a young woman, it's a huge separator in being able to, like, when you get to a college setting, being able to kind of hold your own.
And it's good that Rachel said that and not Arnold, because Don, I always tell the kids at Dirt Dawg, if you don't do this, I'm gonna sit you down because you have to do the whole thing. And they always laugh at me. And because I remember Cleveland Indians, they were very big in starting to do, and we're talking like, wow, it might be like 20 years ago, almost 30. But they were very, very big on, you need to do the weights before you get on the field. So that day, yeah, they let you take batting practice and everything. But when the game came, I mean, you're not playing. And if you want to play the next day, I had to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning, do the routine, but it was not the routine that I was supposed to do the day before. I'm supposed to do the routine the day before and the routine that day to be able to be on the field. And at that time, you don't know why they're doing it. You know how we always be like, oh, why are we doing all this? It's my choice. I don't need to do that. But when the season started, especially when you play so long, I mean, once that game 70 or 74 hits, I mean, you could feel like you say, your elbows, your shoulders, everything hurts. I mean, and you have to push through. So the ones that got ready, doing all of the work, prepare themselves better, then they're the ones that are going to be able to play every day better than what you could bring to the game because you're not going to be 100%. So it's good that Rachel said it, not Arnold.
Yeah.
Rachel said
No, and the key is, and we see, like 2 years ago, we had a good number of kids that came in, worked out, and those kids were on the field the whole season. They stayed healthy. They stayed strong through the hot days, and it's, trying to get those examples out there so that all the other kids can see it. But easier said than done.
I know. So Rachel, I would like you to tell all of us here, Dirt Dawg for all the family that we're here, how your acceptance has been in Major League Baseball teams now that you are a hitting coach. Because strength and conditioning, of course, I guess people could deal with it, especially in baseball. But once you see as a hitting coach, I mean, you're talking to the guys, you are right there with them, and we're talking about a sport that was formerly known as male coaches only. But I mean, we got to see you there. How that transition is being with those people there?
It's just the same as it was with strength and conditioning. It's like, as soon as the players understand that I'm there to help and that I have information that can help them and that I'm going to be consistent and also that I'm there for the right reason and I can, I think it's just like anything else. I've seen male coaches that don't get respect, that can't demand respect from people, that don't have an authoritative presence, that can't, walk into a room and handle a group. So if I can walk into a room and speak confidently, look people in the eye, and I have the information that can help them, I think they stop caring because they're like, okay, fine, you can help me, great. Tell me what to do. Like, I don't care anymore. It takes a little time, but it's been the same. I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny because strength and conditioning, I almost view that as harder because I was having to make guys do stuff they don't want to do every day. Like I was having to make people lift weights and run conditioning every single day when it's hot in the middle of August in AA after we had a bus trip the night before. So getting guys to come in the cages and hit, that's easy. Like they're like happy to be there. So I actually think being a strength and conditioning coach, especially as a woman, where it's more of like an authoritative role where I'm having to push people and ask them to do difficult things that, are hard for many reasons. It's changed from that to more of just coaching and not worrying about, waking guys up at 6 to go work out and they're mad about that. So in some ways it's gotten easier. Like I said, the information piece, like if I'm watching a guy hit and I'm like, oh, you don't do you struggle with the inside pitch? And they're like, kind of like, oh, she actually does know what she's talking about. Like, oh, okay. She might know what she's talking about. Or I say something and they're like, oh yeah, Dylan said the same thing. So what I say is matching up with what other coaches say as well. Like, I think that they're like, oh, okay. Like you do know what you're talking about. So I think for me, it just takes more time because they have to get to know me before they're going to give me respect. Whereas, if a coach walks in and he played professional baseball, they're like, oh, you played, you must know. They just assume and give respect. But I always say, like, good, I'm glad I had to earn it. I want to earn people's respect. I don't need you to give it to me right away. I don't need to walk in and you go, oh, I'm going to respect you. I don't need that. I'm glad that I have to earn it because that means when somebody does give me respect and likes me, it's because I earned that from them. I had to go get it, So it's a bit of a transition, but also, like, I want to say with the Latin players, and actually, Arnold, you might be able to speak to this, is just like I learned Spanish when I got to baseball. I did not know any Spanish. So now I'm almost fluent. I'm like close. But especially when I was getting in, they just cared that I cared to communicate with them. So the fact that I was like really pushing hard to learn Spanish every day, and I was always asking them questions, and I would teach them English. I would take the time to teach them English, and just it was almost a vulnerable point of growing together. So, I mean, people know, like, just like a coach, what players, within one practice, you can, by now, you can tell what players work hard and don't work hard. One practice. Same thing with players to the coach. I don't think they're thinking of it like this, but you can tell pretty quickly if somebody is passionate, consistent, they're showing up, they know what they're doing, they're confident. The players can tell that, they can feel it on you. So I just think that, like I said, sometimes it probably takes a little bit more time for the players to respect me than somebody else, but that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all.
And they, once again, like you said, they see your commitment and then they just buy into it, which is great.
And that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I got one quick one, and that's, once again, technology. I kind of have a technology background. These guys wouldn't believe it because I'm forever trying to log into these.
Well, it take you like 8 hours just to get a Skype account. So yeah, of course we don't believe it.
But like from a 10,000-foot level, what type of eye tracking information can you share with our players? The importance of it.
So, oh God. From a 10,000-foot level, I will say one thing, if you want to learn more, there's an excellent blog that summarizes all the research from Driveline. So if you were to just Google Driveline eye tracking blog, that would be a good starting point if you're like trying to learn more about it. I would say there's been like decades of research done in cricket on this. And so it's not new, but it is new to baseball. And I just, oh God, it's like such a deep topic.
Yeah, I know.
Where you're looking matters. So I just would say like picking one point on the pitcher and sticking with it basically, and then gravitating towards the ball as the hand comes around, or like in softball, staring at the hip, and then as the arm comes around, they're going to the hand instead of like trying, like the eye moving all around is not good. So that's like 10,000-foot view, like picking one point, being able to hold focus.
And I think that's great. That's some great advice, because I think right now, obviously at different ages, different levels of talent, kids they're just reacting. They're not really kind of focused in. They're not turning that head and trying to get two eyes on the pitcher. They're not keeping the head down on the ball, following it all the way into. Like we even try to teach them, follow it all the way into the catcher's glove, even if you're not swinging at it.
Yeah, I would say that's sound advice based on the research, I think that circulating around at this point, like it's pretty clear that most hitters aren't watching the ball all the way to the bat, even elite level hitters, because it's almost impossible to do that. But also because by the time the ball gets to, like, basically by the time the ball gets within, like, let's say 3 to 5 feet of the plate, you're already in your swing. So you watching the ball all the way to the bat, it does matter. You should watch it as far as you can, but it's possible that you're not watching the ball at contact, and that's actually pretty common, even with high-level professional hitters.
And that's good that you said that, because I always tell the kids every time they ask me, where do I put my hands when I go hit? I say, well, the first thing we need to work is your vision. So let's see a few pitches and see how your vision is. And then we could deal with all this, because it don't matter where you put your hands. If you put it in the right place, if you have no idea to how to at least get something going with a little box, we used to call it a box. Find that little box that you want to see the ball come from, then you're in trouble. And that's why we always tell the kids, Don and Rachel, and the girls, when you're in the dugout, keep an eye on the pitcher. Get the idea where that little box for you, just for you, it's going to be. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you, all right, just look at this. No, go get it yourself. Then, everything else is going to move along. Let me add, well, we got the website that you were talking about, drivelinebaseball.com is down there, guys, in the banner down there. So write it down, look for it, and get more idea on it.
Don't go check it out until the interview's over, though.
Well, don't go now. I'll start talking Spanish, and then you stay for sure. We know that. But Rachel, one more thing before we're pretty much going to the end here. Can you tell us how you felt when you saw yourself? And I think it was Lisa Nacken that is working with the Giants in the Major League coaching staff. When you saw yourself in that cover of the Baseball Digest, something that for 79 years we never got to see. I mean, what was your feeling to see that picture?
Yeah, that's like, I've just been saying, like, I'm grateful. I feel like I am, and Alyssa, and there's 2 other coaches, Rachel Folden, she's a assistant hitting coach with one of the Cubs minor league teams, and then Tina Whitlock, who's kind of in a 4th coach role, which is like kind of scouting, kind of on-field stuff. So there's 4 of us this year, 5 if you count another one. I mean, there's 5 women who are going to put on a uniform. Hopefully, we're going to put on a uniform this year at some point for a major league team. So I think just like I'm really grateful that I feel like I'm a not end product, but I am an end product of a lot of other people's work. So there's been women in baseball for decades, right? But they've just been in administrative roles in the front office, and there's been really heavy hitters. I mean, think about Jean Afterman is in the New York Yankees organization, and she's been in baseball literally since I was under 10 years old. Like, so so many women that have been in baseball before me. So I'm grateful for all of the work that they did to set me up to be able to have these opportunities, because it all works together, right? You can respect women in the front office, and then they get other positions. And I was a strength coach. And so because I was a strength coach for 6 years, the people that hired me are like, she's a great coach. We know her work ethic. We know that how the players respect her. She's going to be fine. She has the knowledge of hitting. So I think, like, I'm grateful for all of the visible ideas from women that came before me. I'm grateful for all of the men that had to be a part of my hiring. I'm grateful for, the Cardinals for hiring me, the Astros. Like, I think about all of the things that had to happen for me to be on the cover of a Baseball Digest. Is just like, I'm so grateful for all of the people that have come behind me. And then even thinking about my family, I think that it's important to know, and I sure, Arnold, you might even have some stories related to this, but like, my own mother didn't have really access to playing sports. She grew up in a small town in Nebraska, and like she could run track, and that was the only option for her. And here I am, minor league hitting coach for the Yankees, like one generation apart. And then her mother and my dad's mother didn't graduate high school. So like how fast, my family has grown, and generations, and just society. I have basically I feel like I've done very little to earn this, whereas other people have done the work for generations before me to make sure that I had this opportunity. So I just think gratitude is the feeling that I get.
Yeah, and kudos to you. Hardworking, couple master's degrees, putting in a lot of hours, I'm sure, on a daily basis. A lot of hard work, learning new technologies. Obviously, your passion for it is probably the biggest thing that probably would get you through, correct?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I should mention this for the sake of the kids on the call. Also, all of the opportunities that I've been given, but also like kind of, I mean, you just think about certain times. Like I'll share a story to cap it off if you don't mind. Might take me a couple minutes, but like I was in AA for the Houston Astros, so that's the Texas League, and we were like, you know, in the Texas League in AA, it's overnight bus rides. It's like, I think our longest one was 15 hours. Our shortest one was like 4 hours. So overnight bus rides. And at that time, 2018, I had already decided that I was quitting and going back to school in Europe. So I was studying all season long. And you guys can just imagine, in a bus, I was studying physics and calculus and a computer programming software. So we would get off of a 12-hour bus ride, and everyone would get into the hotel and go upstairs and go to sleep because it's hard to sleep on a bus overnight. And I would get off the bus and go into the hotel and like study physics. So I just had a really tough season. And also like the story that I would like to share is I was studying one time outside the clubhouse because I'm a girl, and a lot of those old minor league stadiums aren't built for women to be in there while the players are showering and such, right? So I just sit outside. That's my choice. Of course, I wasn't going to make everyone else accommodate me. So I just sat outside the clubhouse. But in August in San Antonio, it's hot. So I was sitting outside the clubhouse with my physics, like flashcards, studying physics. And I was swatting away mosquitoes, and I'm studying. And finally, I was like, I can't take this anymore. So I went into the women's restroom in the stadium and sat in the handicap stall next to the toilet and was studying physics. And So, and this was, by the way, right before I was going to move to Europe and give up my entire life savings to go back to school for a second master's. So I'm grateful for the opportunities, but I also feel vindicated, or just, you know, it's like, oh, like all of that stuff was worth it. And I just flash back to like sitting next to a toilet in the handicap stall studying my physics flashcards, you know, and I'm like, what I remember in that moment, I even texted my family. I remember just thinking like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing all this? And then now I'm on the cover of Baseball Digest, and I'm like, that's why.
There you go. I mean, and that's a good story that you bring, because get everybody. This is good for the coaches, for the parents, and for the kids and the girls. You work hard. I mean, you sacrificed a lot of things, but I mean, you give it all you got. And if things didn't work out, well, at least you could just still do something else out of baseball, but still walk with your head up and saying, you know, I did everything I could to try to do this, you know. And I mean, like I always tell the kids, I did everything I could. I sacrificed to try to make it to the big league. I didn't make it, but at least I had 10 years in the minor league. I enjoy it. I got a lot of experience. I went to places that I would never have gone if it wasn't because of baseball. There was no way I was going to go there. So I learned a lot of things, making new friends. And that's perfect example. And Dong, even for the coaches that we have at Dirt Dawg, even if you never played baseball before, you could still do things. I mean, you just have to put up your work, learn stuff. You might have to, like Rachel said, work a little harder than somebody else, because of course, if somebody else played, they have a better idea at least of the basic of the whole thing that you want to teach. But that doesn't mean because I'm not want to say nothing to that kid because I never play ball. What he's gonna say to me? No, go at it. Just make sure you get prepared. Learn everything that you have to learn. Once you start talking to that kid, trust me, like Rachel said, they're gonna respect you and they're gonna believe in what you're selling to them. And that's the best
and
part.
then the other part of that is that we get, you know, we like our coaches to, once again, if they think they know everything, then they're probably not going to be a coach at Dirt Dogs long, because there's always something to learn. So if you get a pompous attitude and you're not willing to learn and grow and learn new technologies, you know, that's where you that's when the game passes you, like you said with the veterans, you know, that aren't buying into technology now, game's passing them by.
Well, Rachel, before we go, you got something that you've been doing with a little GoFundMe that you started. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And for the people at Dirt Dawg, we will have that link to in our website and on our social media accounts. Okay.
Yeah, I just, you know, when COVID hit and we all got sent home from spring training, it's like, it's easy to kind of look at ourselves and go, oh, what was me? You know, everyone was asking me, well, oh, I'm so sorry, it's your first season with the Yankees and you can't you can't do it. And I'm like, there are plenty of other people who are going to be struggling way more than me. So it's easy. Also, the problem is so big, and also there are other issues going on now. And so it's like, we're in a really tumultuous time. And it's very easy when problems get so big to just be like, oh, I feel helpless and I can't do anything. But I thought, no, I can actually do something. And so, every podcast or interview that I've done, I've been asking for a $10 donation, and that's added up. And then of course, like, people are so generous and are giving more. And so I mean, any podcast or interview like this that I'm on, I always just say, like, right now, go to the link. Literally $5 helps. It's amazing. Giving to these food banks. So I've given to 2 food banks, blessings in a backpack that helps after school programs and children that are in need of food right now, because a lot of kids are at home. They're not getting the meals that they would get normally at school. So it's amazing how $5 goes so far. And so, like, sometimes $5 for a food bank can mean 15 meals, which is incredible. So I've been encouraging people, just click on the link. $5 goes a really long way. And if it feels like this problem is so big and that we're in a really tumultuous time in our country, like, do what you can, So for me, that was starting that GoFundMe and using my social media and interviews and podcasts that I'm on to fund some of that. And so far, I think it's at like $5,300, nice. Which, like, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, that's not enough, but that's way more money than I would have been able to give myself. Mm-hmm. So just encouraging the community to join in and give, I think, is just, everyone has to do their part. And sometimes that's $1, and that's great. And if that's $100, that's great too. Like, whatever you can, it just depends on where you're at in your situation.
That's great, and we will definitely carry that along with you. We'll get that on our link. We'll get a little Dirt Dog challenge out there too. So
there you go.
So kudos.
Hey, Rachel, any advice or any last moment message that you want the girls, the boys, everybody at Dirt Dog coaching and the whole staff to hear from you before we let you go today?
Yeah, I think that just the summary is, like, being an underdog is an advantage. And so sometimes it's in the moment, if you are having to work harder than your peers for whatever reason. Maybe you're just not as athletically gifted and you're sitting the bench. No one gets a movie made about them if their path was easy. Like, being an underdog is an advantage. And if you can succeed and you can go from being a bench player to a starter, think of how much strength and power you'll feel just from that journey within itself. So if you're struggling with something, whether that's baseball or softball or school or your family or whatever, try as hard as you can, even though you're in a tough situation, to look at this and go, okay, it's going to be worth it. Like, at the end of this, if I keep doing this, it's going to be worth it. Most people just give up before it's worth it. So they just complain about their situation that they have, but they gave up, so you didn't know what was going to happen on the other end of all of that work and working extra and working long hours and showing up and doing more than your peers. So I think just the last thing is just that being an underdog is an advantage, and it's all about your perspective.
Great advice, Rachel. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, your everything that you've been through. Great success story. Once again, gives our kids motivation, I'm sure, as parents as well as coaches. So kudos to everything you've done. You got a big fan here, even though you're a Yankee. You still got a fan here.
You had to say that.
The Yankees are a very likable team. So I'm good with the Yankees.
Yeah, right. No, and before we end, I want to say hi to Alex Santiago, the guy that you saw behind the scene, because his wife Joanna, she actually played baseball, and that was regular baseball in the national team in Puerto Rico, and she's helping him at Dirt Dog too to be a coach, and all the kids, the same way that you say, Rachel. I mean, she has a lot of knowledge, and they understand what she's coming from. She understands the game, so it makes it a lot easier for her. So yeah, awesome. At Dirt Dog, we already, following your footsteps with Joanna there, and she's very, very proud of you. She just let us know with a text that very proud of you, awesome. Listening to you here. So that's pretty nice, pretty nice. We just want to put that in, guys. So when you hear Joanna talking, you know what it is. So Rachel, muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I hope this resonates with somebody out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Alex?